In this video I'm going to give you a review of Buffy Season 8 Library Edition Volume 1. This is the first oversized volume of the comic series continuation of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV series, and contains issues 1 to 10 of the comic series. For those that don't know, the television series, created by Joss Whedon, follows the character of Buffy Summers, who deals with all the problems of being a teenage girl, as well as the problems of being the chosen one, a role designated by the Fates and one which tasked Buffy with fighting off the vampires and other various monsters that terrorise the suburban town of Sunnydale. At 7 seasons long, the series created many memorable and heartfelt moments, brought on mostly by the massively fleshed out characters and lovable characters. But does this pattern continue in the comics? Do all the aspects that made the TV series good retain in the comics? Yes and no. It certainly was a comic that I enjoyed, but it may not be for everyone. Many of the aspects that were present in the TV series are still present in the book. We still have all the lovable characters and cast, the witty dialogue, all the fantasy elements, sort of the fantasy storylines, the imposing threats of the big bad and some wonderful villains, as well as some wonderfully choreographed fight scenes. These aspects are taken even further in the comics, and definitely taken to another level. Settings or scenes that would have been near impossible in the TV series due to budgets or even just practicality can be done in the comics, as everything that can be drawn can be put in the comic book. Everything is pumped up to extreme in this new comic form. The main status quo change in the comics from the TV series, that slaying is not just a single person's job. Slaying is now a worldwide operation, and rather than just one Slayer in the form of Buffy, there is thousands. I think they number it about 1800. The slaying headquarters are set in Scotland in a castle, no less, and so from the start you see that the scale is much bigger and that the fancy elements are pumped up. In charge of the Scotland headquarters is Xander, and there seems to be many nods and kind of references to Marvel's S.H.I.E.L.D. operation, especially the fact that Xander has an eye patch. It's very reminiscent of Nick Fury. I think that's deliberate, but this definitely makes the slaying operation seem huge and much bigger than it was in the TV series. There's a slaying army and there's many battles in some of the stories, fighting fancy elements, of course vampires and even zombies appear, and there's tons of great fantasy scenes at large scales. The good versus evil aspect definitely feels like a worldwide operation. Speaking of everything being bigger as well, Dawn, Buffy's sister, is also now a giant, so again the fancy elements are pumped up. As I was saying, this might not be everyone, and it might not be for everyone. It might be hard to adjust to, but once you realise that you're reading Buffy the comic rather than watching Buffy the TV series, you really do get engrossed in the art style. At least I felt like that. Violence and fight scenes even are pumped up overall, as they don't need to worry about the TV show ratings or even just the physical mechanics or the training of the fight scenes. Again, if it can be drawn, it can be put in the comic. For many people, this might not be a good thing, because what many people enjoyed about the series, or what they felt like was the heart of the series, was that Buffy, although having fantasy elements, was based in suburbia. Even though that was the base of the TV series, many of that changed as it went on, but that was the heart. It was based on regular people with extraordinary talents or skills. For others, taking everything to a new level may actually make the series more enjoyable, as it does give a change to the series, and after 7 seasons long we might feel like we do want something different. At first I didn't consider myself in any of the two camps, but after finishing the book I really enjoyed it, and I did feel myself engrossed in this new style, and I cannot wait to read some more of it. You definitely feel like you still are in the Buffyverse, just a new, and at least to some people, a new and improved version of the Buffy universe. The two main stories of the book are written by Joss Whedon, the series creator, and Brian K. Vaughan. The Whedon pen section is very huge in scope terms, with some huge battles and very ambitious writing. It also contains all the witty dialogue and all the wonderful character development that we've seen in the series. In Whedon's section, we definitely recognise all these characters as the people we all know and love, with everything pumped up though. The characters are absolutely the characters we recognise from the TV series. The story also plants the seeds of the big bad element introduced in some of the characters, or introducing some of the main villains of the series, as well as bringing back some old characters from the television series and changing how they stand and their power levels and essentially who they are as a whole, but still keeping them as the characters we know, just as a new versions of them, much like the comic in itself. And the stories mix action, fantasy and dreamscape sequences, but still keep the character development. And although story that can be read by itself, it does feel like the start of an overarching big bad plot. It does set out the seeds there in the massive fight of evil. Again, wedding section contains many characters and it could be maybe hard to stomach at first, but it still is a great read once you come to terms with it. The Von Penn section focuses more on character development rather than overall flashiness. We still have a number of characters making appearances, but the story feels more focused and characters appear for the sake of the story rather than just appearing for fan service or just for the sake of it. The story also helps demonstrate there's many worldwide Slayer operations, some more covert and secretive than others. Personally, I enjoyed the Vaughn section more. Some of the reading issues can feel a bit too crammed with information and they need a bit more room to breathe. Doesn't make them bad stories, and I just felt like I preferred the Vaughn section. There's a couple other one-shots included. One of them follows the story of one of Buffy's decoys, as not all the villains know what she looks like. So decoys are set around the world to sort of keep vampires away from trying to assassinate Buffy all the time. This helps demonstrate that there are Slayers all over the world, and that each one of them has a life of their own. This shows throughout the book. As some of the new characters introduced, you definitely learn who they are. You're not confused as to what some of the characters are like. So there is a lot of character development through all the action scenes, which is great. So I can show you some of the inside of the book now as well. Artwork is supplied mainly by Paul Lee and George Gianti, and although it's not amazing, which is unfortunate because the large format would make great artwork look even better, it still is really good artwork. All the faces from the show are instantly recognisable and all the fancy elements are conveyed perfectly. It just doesn't seem detailed or stylised enough for my taste. It doesn't make the book less enjoyable really, it still serves its purpose, it just makes the overall impressiveness a bit lower. The fight scenes are choreographed all brilliantly as well, and the artists have no problem displaying the over the top, sometimes near impossible fight moves. Covers are drawn by Zhou Shen and are in the form of paintings with a hint of photorealism and are very impressive. However, drawing the entire book like this would be massively time consuming. There is a very short story of a few pages all drawn by Zhou Shen, but it is literally a few pages and it was done as a webcomic rather than a series as a whole. This artwork is definitely great to see in the huge format. But overall, I think the fact that the fight scenes conveyed perfectly and that we recognise other characters show that the artwork is actually very good. There's also some extras in the book, such as the early character sketches or thumbnails from some pages or panels. This is also always a welcome addition to big collections, as they give some insight into the comic creation process. The book as a whole certainly feels like part of a bigger story. Although the big bad is introduced, it does feel like a seed, and it feels like there's much more of the character to learn about, and that his threats are only just beginning. Despite some of the early issues being crammed, there still feels like there's much more story to be seen, so I'm looking forward to reading the other volumes. The early stories feel like they're setting the characters up in their new environments for half the time, and that now that the situations that all the characters are in this new Buffyverse setting has been set, I'm looking forward to how they continue with this. Not to say the entire book is set up, it's definitely not all set up. There is still lots of action and real story. I feel like this is just the start, and there is another 3 library editions to be released, so there is definitely a lot more to see. Overall, this is a book I enjoyed, but it might not be for everyone. Non-comic reading fans who enjoy the TV series probably won't like this, or at least they'll find it hard to adjust at first. But comic reading fans, I think, should enjoy the series as a whole. They should realise that Buffy is now in the comic universe and not in the television series universe, and should enjoy the book. But everyone should give it a try, comic fans and the TV series fans as a whole. apart from that, many of the elements that did make the TV series good are still present in the book, and for that reason you should definitely check it out. So, a great book. I don't really want to give it a rating because it's such a big collection and the stories vary, but it is highly recommended by me as a fan of Buffy the TV series and comics in general, and it's definitely a worthy addition of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. Thanks for watching.